What's going on? Brian Tong here, and we've got the details on the new M3 MacBook Air that Apple just announced. Plus, if you didn't hear about it already, Apple has canceled its Apple Car project after giving it a go for more than 10 years, so we'll get into that too. But first, the new M3 MacBook Air. Apple announced all new 13-inch and 15-inch models that will come with the M3 chip, support for 2 external displays, and Wi-Fi 6E and more. You know, I've done a bunch of benchmark tests on these chips with other Apple Macs with the M3, and Apple is comparing its performance here to the M1 model, which gives you a 60% performance increase. Now, if you have an M2, the biggest advantage to upgrade would be to take advantage of their next-gen graphics capabilities and GPU. But for single-core and multi-core performance, you're getting about a 20% increase from M2 to M3. If you have an Intel machine right now, this has got to be almost a no-brainer for you. I mean, this is a killer upgrade for anyone with an Intel machine. Now, it's an improvement, but not worthy of an upgrade for a majority of the people on an M2. And I mentioned an upgrade to Wi-Fi 6E. That is welcome. Faster networking speeds. Plus, Apple's bringing better voice and audio quality with voice isolation and wide spectrum microphone modes. It starts with 8 gigs of unified memory and can go up to 24 gigs. You can customize that. And then storage starts at 256 gigs, but can go up to 2 terabytes of storage. Also, the midnight color option now has a more fingerprint resistant finish with Apple's anodization seal like the Space Black M3 MacBook Pros. That's now coming to the new M3 MacBook Air in midnight. Now, the biggest improvement other than the M3 chip is the support for 2 external displays with the lid closed with up to a 5K resolution and 60 Hz for each display. So that would support 2 Apple Pro displays if you're someone who wanted to do that. Now, it will still support 1 display with up to a 6K resolution at 60 Hz like the previous M2 MacBook Air. Now, on a side note also, the 14-inch M3 MacBook Pro that's already out will also get a software update that will add this multi-display support. That feature is not currently available in the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the same M3 chip. Now, as for the higher-end M3 Pro and M3 Max MacBook Pros, those models already have support for multiple displays. Apple will also discontinue the MacBook Air with an M1 chip. That was one of the first Apple Silicon Macs and the last Air with that iconic tapered blade design. Now, the new M3 MacBook Air starts at $1,099, and the 15-inch model starts at $1,299. You can order them today, and they will be available on March 8th. Now, there's also a few other smaller Apple accessory releases. There's some new color options for Apple Silicon cases and watch bands for this spring season with soft mint. You got sunshine, I like that. Those are some of the new color options. And if you also want to get fancy, there are some new color options for the Apple Watch Hermes bands as well. So get ready to open your wallet for that. And you know that you can come right back here to this channel to get a full review once I get my hands on the new M3 MacBook Air. All right, we have to talk about the Apple Car getting canned, and a lot of new information has helped really put the pieces together after the initial reports. There have just been so many ups and downs that I've covered over the years with it, but here's what we know from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman and the New York Times, who have reported extensively about the Apple Car getting scrapped. Now, Apple Chief Operating Officer Jeff Williams told about 2,000 employees specifically working on the Apple Car project that it was canceled. Reports say employees were surprised to hear the news, and with work winding down, hardware engineers and car designers that were part of the Apple Car team may be able to shift to other divisions inside of Apple. Now, there will be some layoffs, while many of the people working on the project will be moved to Apple's artificial intelligence group, which has become a top priority. And we've heard all the reports about AI just being a major focus with the upcoming iOS 18, and I'm just as curious as you are to see how Apple will present it to their users. We've seen how innovative and inventive Google has been with introducing AI features that are approachable and easy to use for the Pixel phone lineup with Gemini, and then now Android phones like the S24 Ultra are benefiting as well. It just has given them a distinct feature advantage, and look, Apple needs to respond. Now, according to the New York Times, Apple spent more than $10 billion on their car project for research and development over the last decade. The report says that internally, some employees felt it was doomed from the start, and that Project Titan, which was the code name internally, was jokingly called the Titanic disaster by some. And I remember, before I went independent, I was excited about the idea of an Apple Car, and really a space that maybe they could try and sprinkle their Apple magic on. But at the same time, I had said this is not going to be easy. Just don't start from nothing and then say, hey, let's decide to make a car. At the same time, a project this big going on for this long, it was still a surprise once Apple did finally just cut it off. Now, it was going to be a big task for Apple, and building a self-driving car would have thin margins compared to what Apple was used to. There's obviously stiff competition, and it would cost roughly around at least $100,000. So think about all the people who own a Tesla or any other EV today. If Apple even released an EV, let's just say in 2026, I wouldn't trade in or get rid of my Rivian R1T that I just got just because Apple made an EV car. I mean, I'm not looking at, I wasn't thinking of them as, okay, this has got to be my next car if they release it. And remember, all those slick Apple car renders people had put out. I mean, this was 10 years ago, and we saw some of these render concepts. I mean, those were fun. They added to the hype. And there were people who were very bullish on the idea that Apple would give Tesla a run for its money, while you had someone like former General Motors CEO Dan Akerson say, Apple has no idea what they're getting into. Now, the car project went through plenty of turmoil and multiple leadership changes through the years. Even Apple's former SVP of technologies, Bob Mansfield, he came out of retirement to come back to help lead the project at one point in time. Now, there were reports that Apple was looking for a partner. They were sometimes talking to BMW. I mean, obviously they were. And later on, we heard they might be talking to one of the Korean car manufacturers as well to get this thing done. Project Titan started from initially being a car to then just being an autonomous driving system to then being an autonomous car without a steering wheel and probably everything in between. Now, in Mark Gurman's Power On newsletter, he talked about how it came down to really how Apple set to build out a car with two schools of thought. One, build a less ambitious electric vehicle with autonomy features similar to what Tesla has, where the car could drive on freeways and some roads, but not everywhere, and plug it into the Apple ecosystem. Then you got number two, change the world with a full-blown self-driving vehicle that could take passengers from point A to point B with zero intervention from a driver and make it look like nothing anyone had seen before. You know, Apple thought it could solve the self-driving problem that the industry still hasn't figured out today with their own groundbreaking design. Now, the last rumor said that Apple was working on a car with no steering wheel and possibly no pedals, with an interior designed for no-hands travel, almost like a lounge car with the infotainment hub in the center, basically something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But that also eventually got scrapped with Apple then going back to a more standard style car. So now none of that happened, and the Apple Car project is dead. You know, a potential revenue stream for the company is no longer viable. So, you know, guess what? Apple is working on other projects that, hey, we may see or may not see. So before we move on, let's just take a moment to remember the Apple Car that never was. This can be so emotional. Oh, all right. But hey, before we get to those new things, I want to know, were you excited about the prospects of this, right? Were you skeptical about the Apple Car? I would love to hear your thoughts about the whole Apple Car project, which was a massive effort. And if anyone was going to pull it off at that time, when you think of where Apple was really part of it, some of its peak powers in that 2014, 2015 time, you would have put your bets on Apple to do it. But in hindsight, you know, it turned out to be a total car wreck. Now, I mentioned other projects Apple is working on, and consider these, let's call them out there projects that have been proposed or in development. According to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, Apple's industrial design team pitched the idea of a smart ring focused on health and fitness features to company execs a few years ago. Now, it's also understandable how Apple execs would have rather put their focus on the Apple Watch at the time, and guess what? It is the most successful smartwatch on the market today. You've seen how companies like Aura have been successful, and Samsung, they even showcased their own smart ring at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona last month. Well, Gurman says Apple is not actively developing a smart ring at this time, so it may be something that we never see from them. But it could absolutely be an alternative to the Apple Watch, you know, less intrusive. And I never wear my Apple Watch when I actually go to sleep, but a ring, that would be a lot easier to keep on. Now, Apple has also reportedly been considering developing a less ambitious pair of smart glasses that would compete with Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses and Echo frames. And when you think about this whole idea of wearable glasses, we've really seen the glasses space break off into like 3 different products, and not just these ultimate advanced AR glasses. So first, you got the glasses that look and feel just like regular glasses that have a couple of tech features. So they are stylish. They aren't screaming like, I have tech on my face like Google Glass did, right? Look at these. These look like just normal glasses, and they do everything from maybe take photos, record movies, and play audio. Snapchat, they were way ahead of the curve with their glasses, but they wanted them to look so unique so that everyone knew you had Snapchat glasses. Reality, the majority of people like tech but don't need it to be an in-your-face statement piece, and that's why Meta's Ray-Ban, they figured it out, and it's absolutely, they nailed it. This is really a genius partnership. These are straight up glasses. And then you have the glasses that are sleeker, but not as sleek, and they're used for media consumption to watch movies or play games from any HDMI source with products from Xreal or Rokid. So that's the second one. And then you have the high-tech, feature-packed AR/VR headsets like obviously Apple Vision Pro and then Meta Quest 3 and more. Now, if Apple was able to nail that consumer-level, low-tech glasses product with a trendy partner at one end and then maybe play around with a high-fashion brand at the high end, that would be pretty compelling for me with low tech, right? They don't have to throw everything at it. We're just gonna have to wait, easily more than 5 years and closer to 10 years or more before we get anything remotely close to something like the Apple Vision Pro features in something as slick as regular sunglasses. But we will get there eventually, and hopefully before I'm too old to really enjoy them. I wanna be able to really enjoy whatever Apple Vision Pro looks like in 20 years. I want it. Now, Gurman also reports Apple engineers have been exploring with how to add low-resolution camera sensors to a future version of AirPods, another product, and these cameras could detect the environment or the scene that you're in and assist people with their daily routines. There's not too many details out there about it, but it sounds kind of wild and out there, and personally, I'd rather see more health biometrics added to AirPods first, but it's fun to hear what Apple might be cooking up in the Apple labs. And then we've heard about this one over the past couple of years. Apple is still working on a new HomePod-like speaker with an iPad-like display built into it. Now, the device reportedly won't launch until 2025 at the earliest if Apple plans to move forward, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. He says that Apple has started early work on a HomePod with a screen with overseas suppliers, but they haven't made enough headway for a launch to happen anytime soon. On top of that, Gurman says Apple is also exploring work on a device that is a combination of an Apple TV, a HomePod, and a FaceTime camera that could be magnetically attached to a wall. Think of it like a heavier duty iPad with smart home functionality if it happens. Now for me, Apple needs a flagship product that can just really reinvigorate them to fully commit and go all into the smart home. It's a space that they have still been lackluster in. They're approaching it, but they haven't just poured everything into it. They had the original HomePod, then they discontinued it in 2021, and then they brought it back from the dead in 2023. Then you got the HomePod Mini that hasn't seen any significant changes since it was released in 2020. So my hope is that Apple's commitment to artificial intelligence that we've heard about will also end up spilling over to their smart home plans, because it's a space that they can do a lot better in. I have Amazon and Google products that I use for my smart home, and it's felt like I'm pretty much settled in with them now. It's not like I'm constantly upgrading it. The HomePod is part of it because, yeah, the originals, they sound so good, but Apple's not the center of my smart home ecosystem and still hasn't been after all these years. You got the Matter platform. That compatibility sounded great at first, but it has had no impact on changing my smart home usage or moving everything over to Apple at all. And I know I've been a broken record about this, but we just won't take Apple and the smart home more seriously until they do. And yes, we know all about the iPad Pro and iPad Air rumors potentially being announced soon, so we'll see if anything happens this month. But Apple, look, I think you just keep it simple, keep it easy. Just take a page from Google's book. Look at what they did and make an iPad that's versatile, does everything it does already, add more smart home functionality with a dedicated docked app for it, and then give it the ability to magnetically dock to a HomePod-like speaker so it can be used anywhere in the house and then dockable anywhere that there's a speaker base in any room. You got Google's dockable tablet. This is, to me, one of the most underrated and exciting ideas that we've seen in the tablet space for years. So Apple, do that, and you'll make a lot of people happy, like me. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this video. If you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my Apple Bits XL audio podcast with the latest stories and special guests. Plus, you can support all my content with an ad-free version of the podcast, early access to my content, and exclusive content at patreon.com/BrianTong. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace and love.